I'm Dr. Alessio. I'm from Italy, but living in Dubai since 2018. This is the fifth event of a series of events that we made one per month, and this is the conclusive one, especially on AI. We'll summarize more or less all the things that we already said so far, but we also add some more insight. It will be extremely practical, despite I don't have the chance to use my laptop to demonstrate live, but we will make some very useful example. And my perspective is to let you wander. I mean, not brainstorm, but focus on things that you might not have thought about on this aspect. So first of all, I would like to ask you to register, because at the end of this training, especially after today, we will release the certificate to anyone who attended any of the events. Okay, so you will receive also a certificate of attendance for this. And then apart from this, this is also a way eventually to stay in touch. I always share free materials and documents that I always prepare for everyone. So it's, I believe it's valuable and it's free anyway. So if you also want to stay in touch at the end. So this is for the registration, and then we'll start immediately after. I'll give 1 minute just in case. Then we can start immediately, okay? AI explained simply, okay? So you might have watched in the social media or talked to the people or listened to the news, AI. This is something recurring everywhere. But what is AI is sometimes a different perspective from everyone. So sometimes believes that the bot in the website is already AI, or someone else believes that it should be something extremely amazing that should do something else. But if we want to stay, on the heart, not going to Mars and invent something else, what actually does? First, the thing that I already disclosed in the previous one is a model, okay? Something that is calculating. Whenever you type in the computer, in the model, it might be Claude GPT or Gemini AI or whatever you are using, you are typing something, that text that you are writing is turned into numbers. You might not visualize, if you type in your mobiles tokenizer OpenAI, you will see that everything is tokenized. So you have words, letters, or numbers, or punctuation, which is turned into codes. Okay, so it's like sequences of numbers. Okay, it's not digital, not 0 1s, like in the digital technology only, but it's scrambled, let's say, into smaller pieces of numbers. And the tokens are the gold mine of these things. Why? Because the tokens are making this possible. Okay, what is a token? Let's say you have association of numbers, one next to each other, that allow the computer, which is a machine, to calculate an output. The machine does not understand what you write. So stop please asking, oh, please, can you do this for me? I would like to. So this is useless. The machine, you are asking the TV, oh, TV, I like you. You are very kind with me. Okay, so it doesn't make sense. Okay, so we have to be straightforward. Calculate this, meaning of this, something very straightforward. But then this is not enough. We will see later that if you are too generic, the system doesn't have orientation, so you need to contextualize. So imagine, just to give you an idea, that whenever these systems were created, and trust me, even to develop the first one that was viral, that was ChatGPT, took at least 5 years. What does it mean, training the model? So it means that someone uploaded document and documents in a machine, a big machine in a server, and this machine was trained to understand what was the combination of words that make sense, okay, to calculate an output. So let's imagine if you feed, I don't know, your washing machine with with the right softener or other things. So it will do something, the laundry, very well, but you need to know which program to use. So someone had to program this. So in this case, whenever you prompt, first of all, you need to know you need to know the topic first. And you might say, no, but we are using AI to learn or to have an output. No, you need to know the topic first because you need to use the right keywords. And some models are better than others. Some models are better in one topic or another because it depends on which documents were used to train the model. So if it was never trained in that topic, the computer will struggle, the machine will struggle to give you a good answer because it should be pre-loaded first. So you cannot ask a student that never studied physics to answer in physics. They will start cheating. Okay, say, okay, let me give me an answer. Let me put random answer in the multiple choice. Okay, so you cannot be surprised. If the model was not pre-trained on the topic, it will not give you the answer. So that's why you will see that sometimes I always purchase all the subscription for all of them because I want to try the latest model, by the way. When you listen someone that said, oh, I prefer Claude instead of GPT or other thing, then you need to ask one very simple question. Which model are you using? Because if they answer the free version, they don't know what they are talking about, okay? Trust me. And I'm telling you, and these models, they are renewed on a daily basis, not even on a monthly basis. And so if you are not using the paid version, I'm afraid you will not get the maximum from this because eventually you are stuck of 2 years ago. Okay? So that's the secret, okay, that unfortunately I need to share. So you don't want to pay for all, at least pay for the most updated one and you will get the maximum. You don't have to pay because those that are claimed to be the best among the free version, they are still way lower than the one of the paid subscription of any of them, okay? Because they are outdated at least 2 years ago. And also the information and the training received was back. And then how this works? Because you prompt. For example, I always make the example, okay, so give me the answer. So explain me what is a cost. Okay, the system will try to give you a basic answer and will say, okay, why the answer is basic? Because the system will not try to retrieve from the knowledge. It's like a knowledge base, a memory that was pre-trained on these things. From the first document that they kept into the, that is probable to be used. Because the model is probabilistic. It's not deterministic. It doesn't use a logic. So it's a machine. It says, okay, so let me see which document had the sequence of these 3 numbers, okay, that might be 1,000, 2,300, and whatever associated with the tokens. What was the document with these 3, 4 numbers in a row that I found already in another document before? So if the machine finds this association in the perfect document, will keep answering you using that resource. If it cannot find it, will find the first available that is similar to that association. I will repeat, because I know it's strange. So let's imagine you say, what is cost? But what is cost you can find in the blog, you can find in a specialized text in accounting, you can find in a specialized text in management, you can find in a specialized text in marketing. You can find in a comment of a random person that doesn't know the topic at all, okay? So what is a cost? You just need to keep the fingers crossed that the machine will choose the right document. But if you start adding, I want to know what is the cost in financial accounting. That is different. What is financial accounting? I believe that more than 50% of the audience doesn't know the difference between managerial accounting and financial accounting. Okay? Because unless you study accounting, you don't know what is financial accounting. Financial accounting is the one that is studied for the bookkeeping and preparing the financial statement. Okay, but if you add one more token, eventually it will be financial, it might be 2, 3 tokens eventually. With that specific word, you will way filter all the possible documents that they are not specific for the field that you want to study. And so you have a better answer, 100%. Better, not sure 100%, but let's better. You increase the likelihood, you increase the probability that the answer will be better. Why? Because you force the system to go and check what are in their memory the documents that they were more close to the answer that you want, because you are in a specific field. So people that says, oh, I want to replace my doctor to have my treatment in the hospital, okay, good luck. Do you know what is the exact word of your therapy or your symptoms and so forth? Eventually you might use generic words. You don't know exactly what is the terminology of this. So when I hear people that say, I'm studying with AI, I say, good luck. You should study first and then eventually refine and get a summary of what you have with AI. It's the other way around. So now the knowledge is even more important than before. So I'm afraid this is something that we should be aware of. Of course, once I used for medical purposes to a friend, AI, but you know what I did? I downloaded the PDF of a book, of 3 books, in this case, the manuals of diabetes. I asked my friend to share with me his own blood test, the report of the blood test of the last 5 years. I merged everything in the knowledge. I created a sandbox, a kind of specialized GPT, it's called the custom GPT, and I said, prepare based on this knowledge only. I removed the web search. Prepare based on this knowledge only what is the daily meal that he has to do to improve his blood test. And it worked perfectly. But of course, before starting, he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, amazing. This is better than I could have done. Because of course, you need specialization or other things. But in this case, it was controlled. I increased massively. I removed the possibility that the system could drift to random comments of people or blogs or, let's say, even, I don't know, podcasts or whatever, people which is talking to each other without knowing the topic. And of course, I got a great result. The result depended on me, even without the knowledge, but I put the knowledge, the trusted knowledge of a manual there. So you see, the use that we are doing, it's starting from the awareness of how it works. The model, and even in this case, it cannot be true 100%. You always need to have someone that is supervising the results. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It was very fast. It created the plan, the meal plan for him for 1 month in 30 seconds instead of 1 month. And the doctor just changed few things. And of course, this is an acceleration of the things. It's not a replacement, but still, it's valuable. But valuable to the extent that I knew the limitation of the model. If you don't know the limitation, you will keep using, in a suboptimal way, let's say, okay? And then prediction, generation. So why this model is good in prediction? And if you run the same prompt 10 times, the answer will be different all the times. Imagine, this model was trained with the millions of documents. Do you think that in 10 seconds, 20 seconds, this model will review all the documents together and choose the right one? No. We'll pick up randomly the first one that has this tokens association closer to your answer, to your prompt, and will return you whatever is probabilistic and generated, one word after the other. Okay? So let me know if I'm talking too fast or too technically. So it's fine? Okay, so imagine you have this library. Do you think that, and these are millions of tokens and documents that was pre-trained in the model, and then you expect that in 10 seconds the model will still read all these books and they'll choose the right ones and then craft the answer and no. We'll start saying, okay, let me see randomly, I will start from the 3rd row, which is the book which is generally associated which is in that topic at least. And then getting that document, eventually another one, will craft your answer. You understand that this time we'll start from the third row. The next time we'll start from the other side of the library. Okay, every time the answer is different. Okay, that is why. And then it's probabilistic. It's not using the logic. It's not saying, okay, so this is, that's why now we are talking about neural network and other things, because the human brain keeps retaining things and immediately goes to the right document at the right time, but you need to have read that document first as well. You have the same limitation. Okay, but at least sometimes we can make more association. Now the system is great because it's making great association even faster than us. Still, we need to keep learning, keep teaching the model, keep uploading new knowledge, keep filtering, understanding which knowledge is good or not. I will always make another example, even in class at the university. I do this. I say, try to ask, provide me 3 examples of disrupting innovation. Okay? You can try in your mobiles or whatever. What is disrupting innovation? What is disruptive? If I'm asking the audience, what is the meaning of disruptive in the market? Something like a company which is booming, right? Something like this. Disruptive is completely new, is very good. So, and the system will start saying Airbnb, Uber, and Netflix, and so forth. Okay, fine. Do you agree with the model? I do not. Because I read the theory of disrupting innovation from Professor Christensen that wrote an article in the Harvard Business Review that said, in the article, he's the author of the theory. It says Uber is not disruptive because the taxis are still there. Disruptive means that a company started and the other went bankrupt. Uber is not. And the author of the theory said, used Uber as an example of a misunderstanding of the theory in Harvard Business Review, so in a reputable document. But since everyone started in the blogs writing, oh, this Uber is disruptive, Uber is disruptive, the model learned that 9 people out of 10 wrote that Uber is disruptive. The 9 ignorant people are more important than the author of the theory. Understand this? And that's why the common knowledge is not knowledge. Okay, it's just common and trying to understand. And in that case, you will see, try. Okay, examples of disrupting innovation in your GPT, in your Gemini, in your Claude, try to ask, you will see. But then, in my computer, in my ecosystem, now I uploaded the document of Christensen, the original source, so in my GPT, that is also remembering all the prompts that I am using before, it never mentioned anymore Uber. Because I gave the knowledge and prioritizing my knowledge compared to the entire corpus of documents that were used in the training. And you can never be sure which documents were used because it's a kind of black box. No one will tell you which documents were used. And we know that GPT and OpenAI, they used, because now they declared it, copyrighted material before disclosing it. Now the Congress said, okay, go ahead. Okay, but before they use it. So that's why, for example, GPT has still some advantages compared to the others because the train was done much earlier and with much more detailed documents. While, for example, I love Google, I'm using anti-gravity for doing all my things because it's very good in orchestrating all the things. But when I need to study something and to explain more in detail the things, I always go back to the other model, of course, the paid one as well. Because you need to pick up the bigger library. If you come here, you don't have the same range of documents that you can find in a smaller library in a smaller town. It's uncomparable. So whenever you pick up a model and you want to use the free ones, think that you are heading the smaller library in a smaller city in a remote desert. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, just to give you an idea. Then generation is exactly this, probabilistic. So word after the other associated with numbers the system does not understand. Do not ask, please, I would like to, or being polite with this system. These are machines. It's like, chair, please, before I'm about to sit, wait for me. No, you don't care. You use the seat. You seat. Is something, without any heart, and other things. Then where it helps, as I said, I mentioned here before, that's why I made that example before, medicine. You might say, no, I'm a doctor, I'm better. Yes, those that are doctors are great. I love if they can audit what is the output. They should do that. And of course, however, if we are in a rush and we cannot call the doctor and someone is dying, we can still use it and at least have a chance. But if you have time, of course, go to the doctor. I'm not saying use GPT. You can use GPT and then, but you don't have to be so, let's say, proud of yourself and say, oh, GPT told me, you doctor, you are making a mistake. Because, of course, you will upset the doctor, and the doctor, okay, go to GPT. I don't care, okay? And good luck, as I always say. Then work, creativity, daily life. So in the previous sessions, I always remarked one thing. Whenever there is a routine task that is reiterative, this should disappear from the human work. It's not work. It's not real work. But this was said, imagine, by Taiichi Ohno in the 1950s. Taiichi Ohno was the engineer that was running Toyota in the post-Second War Japan. And he said, if the person is watching intently a machine, this is not real work. It's wasting time, wasting resources. Okay? So that's why the routine task, like Charlie Chaplin in Modern Times repeating the same thing or other thing. Before it was manual work, now it's office work, still it's routine task. It should be turned into critical thinking. If you believe that you can still find routine task jobs in the future, forget about it because they can be already replaced. But as I always said, the problem is not that the job is disappearing. The problem is that the employees are not updating the skills in order to stay relevant. That is a different change of mindset. Okay, because if you are doing always the same thing and you believe that this is a comfort zone, it's not comfort at all. Okay, so that's the idea. And I'm not scaring anyone. I'm just pushing everyone to do the best and to think more and to focus on critical thinking and strategic leadership roles, instead of manual or repetitive tasks, because this is the reality. I prefer the machine. In all my companies, I never now anymore hire anyone, because this is much more impactful. I already have the knowledge. I upload the knowledge there, and I don't have to waste time for me to train someone. Why should I? And then with the 5,000 dirhams per month, with all the subscription I make, how many employees I should have paid. Okay, this is the truth. So my encouragement is to try to understand there are so many tools. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I was thinking, okay, I want to create passive incomes. I gave me so many options, free software, that I was overwhelmed. I said, okay, let me make a plan. I will start one of them every week. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, now sometimes I wake up, I said, okay, from where I will start today? So now the other scarce resource is the time, because the world is going so fast, and those that are running the most are doing the best. Okay, so that's the idea. Where the caution is needed, as we know, this depends on the system itself. Probability, training received by the model, and your knowledge. 3 things. Nothing else. If you are already knowledgeable in a topic and you want to learn and you want to test the things, because sometimes even in TikTok you might say, oh, these things is amazing, and then you test it and it's crap. Okay, my best knowledge is coming from TikTok. because it's on a daily basis updated, not from the books sometimes. Okay, because TikTok, it gives you the thing. Even before the software houses, they declare that they have a bug or something else, okay? So, and the combination also is a combination of tools, not one. I'm always using, for example, the first research with GPT, then I orchestrate everything with anti-gravity, then I create the visuals with Grok. All of them paid. Business level, not even the plus. So every subscription costs 1,000 dirhams. But if you say, oh, 1,000 dirhams is expensive. Yes, I should have paid the marketing department, 3 employees to 50,000 dirhams per month, not 5, at least. And the result was not immediate. Okay, so and it's not. And if I had to ask for a change, I prompted immediately. I have the answer in seconds. So the humanity needs to focus on what we are designed for. We are designed to think and to have critical thinking and to use our imagination and to be smart, not to be dragged into repetitive tasks. Let's continue then. So speed. First, for those who have, how many of you tried, for example, to use this software, this generative AI software, and you hit a limit? I said, oh, the credit's finished. Wait tomorrow or pay. Okay, to everyone, unless you have, even myself, that I'm using so much that I'm hitting the limits in the software for the business, imagine. But this happens because we are wasting the tokens. You are prompting, for example, in your own language. So the model needs to use token to translate in English and then to translate again and to give you an answer. So it's using the power, 1/5 of the power only to give you the answer, and the rest is only wasted to translation. And eventually the translation is not even good. Or eventually you are uploading a long PDF. PDF, if you download, only that one consumes 70,000 tokens. And you know, in an answer and a question and answer, you have limited, let's say, in the free one, 200,000 tokens. If you waste 70,000 tokens only for reading the document, then eventually translating, giving the answer, your answer will be half a paragraph with crap. Okay? So you see, for example, instead of uploading PDF, I go on free sources online. I say, convert PDF to a TXT file, a text file. Instead of 70 megabytes, 200 KB. Uploading this document doing the same thing, and I'm not wasting tokens. And the model is much faster. So all the things I do, not because I waste time, no, because I know how it works. I know where it's wasting the things, especially those that they have free things, do these things. You need to make sure that the system is not struggling at wasting tokens. You don't know how to prompt, you don't know English in particular. Okay, do 2 prompts. The first, ask to translate your question in English. The second, to run that question already in English. And then eventually you use another token to that. So you will maximize your availability of tokens there. Okay, so these are few tips that I designed myself in my mind because I was thinking how to bypass all these limitations. You have a limit every time. So that's why I say the tokens are the gold of now. You know now data centers and all these things, how many tokens are wasted, you cannot even imagine. Because how many persons out of this audience knew about what was a token before today? Imagine. Okay, then speed is the most important thing. So research, code, instant answers, this is the most important and valuable output. Then we have data everywhere, billions of documents, the pre-training that these systems have. So some are better than others. Some is a small library, one is the national library, okay? Then all learns from all it at once. So you might have remembered that at a certain point, it was disclosed DeepSeek, and it was said, oh, it was pre-trained in a fraction of the cost of OpenAI. Of course, they interrogated GPT for many times, and they copied all the results in that, but still it's secondary information. It's not the original source. Be careful, okay? It depends on how it was also prompted in this sense. Automation, as I said, repetitive tasks, handled automatically. You want to do automatic tasks by yourself just because you believe this is, you know, I'm very good at doing this. It's like my auntie, that I don't talk to her since years, that came to me once. I said, I lost my job. Can you please help me to find a job? It was like 10 years ago. And I said, okay, let me know what you know how to do. And I said, oh, I'm very hard worker. I said, what do you mean hard worker? I say, and then I had to ask 3 times before she gave me the answer. She was working in a factory, Siemens, in Abruzzo, in Italy, and then she was, okay, yeah, I come at home very tired. Again, what is your task? When the light is green, I'm pushing what button? When the light is red, I'm pushing another button. And I couldn't stay quiet. I said, of course, you will not find a job. Because the robot, you're not a robot. You're not supposed to do that. Okay? I was very harsh, of course. She didn't understand, and in that case, okay. But now it's the same. I'm very good in Excel. Okay, I create a Visual Basic macro without even knowing how to code in Visual Basic with GPT to automate and merge 3 documents in one. And I push the button, I do the work of 3 days in one button. Okay, this is not scary. This is just understanding that something can be done. And this is the first limitation. Sometimes we cannot even imagine that the existing system can do something. It's a huge limitation. Because I always say, no, let me try to see if this is now available. Because eventually, 2 months ago, it was not, now it is. I fed the system with the trial balance, with the raw data of a company. It created the entire financial statement now. 2 months ago, it was not possible. Trust me. And it did it, I identify things that I didn't even notice. Unbelievable. Okay, so what's the role of the bookkeepers? Bookkeepers, no, but accountants, yes, because I had to review the output, right? And you need to know what's the trial balance. You need to know what is a financial statement. And you need to know the details and the deep understanding of this to audit. So now, no one can hope to be the lower level employee. And then there is another thing. I always compare like a pyramid. You can have different types of data in the world. There are structured, that are quantitative numbers. Then you have semi-structured, like the email, that includes both the date, which is a number, and the text, which is an unstructured. And then you have the unstructured one at the top. There are text and visuals. If you check the leadership, the leaders, do you think that they are running data? Which data are running? No, they are creating visions. They are understanding patterns. They are understanding things that are only unstructured. And the more you go down in the middle layer, you have the managers. Then they need to ask the employees to work and process the data. And then you need to create dashboard to bridge the data to the leadership. Okay? Now, processing data can be automated. Manual work still, it's even safer than this, because manual work, it's still needed until the robot will be processing also that one. But still, the middle manager are now even more important, because the middle manager can understand, should understand what the leaders need. And this is not easy as well, okay? Because if the career is bottom up, they still retain the mentality of, I'm processing thousands of data, I'm doing a big job, I'm a hard worker. No, you should be a smart worker that is giving the leadership what they need to take decisions and to keep this business running or the country running. Okay, that's the most important idea. Then tools in your workflow, I said I bridge them all, I use them, I test, I challenge them. I ask to create the same slides with Copilot, with Grok, with Canva, with GPT, with Canva, with everything. And every time for a different audience, I pick up a different one. I create the script for this slide with GPT, the description of this slide, and then I fed Grok, heavy Grok, the paid one, and I say, create me the slide. This is how this slide was created. This slide, okay? Do you like this visual? Eventually, still, I have some remarks, because you see, sometimes the text is blurred. You can see the text is blurred here. You know, since I was lazy enough, I said, okay, I will not do the next step. You know what was the next step? I could have took this picture, fed into GPT and say, make it better without changing the text and remove the blurred parts. And it could have been perfect. It was just 2 clicks ahead. But it was not needed. Because you see, I let you notice this. Because, you know, I said, if I had someone watching these slides very closely, I had to do it. But in this case, we will be in the library. From far, they will not even notice. But, you know, that's another idea. Okay, I'm giving you the background of thinking. It's a way of mindset and thinking and critical thinking all the time. Knowledge, thinking, merging ideas, creativity. So this is what the humans should do, okay? And I have a great respect and hope for everyone for this. What AI is in plain language, then? So if I'm asking you today, did you learn something new today out of what was explained in general? People is talking AI without knowing what it is. Like 2-3 years ago, people talking about sustainability without what sustainability is. Or blockchain, or every time there is a wave of people that talking about one topic without knowing what it is. But for someone that wants to do the research in depth, and the root documents that rooted sustainability. What is sustainability? It was studied 100 years ago in Italy, in my country. It was studied. Sustainability is, just to let you know, because now I don't want to keep the things pending, is a trending economic equilibrium. It's not climate change or social benefits. It's not at all. Trending economic equilibrium, something that can be in equilibrium today, it can survive tomorrow, and can grow tomorrow. That's it. That is sustainability. Sustainable because it can survive and grow. Only this. Those that they want to add other aspects of elements, they are just inventing things that they do not stick with the grounding theories. Same as I told you before, what is disrupting innovation? Disruptive. Oh, this is disruptive. You don't know what is it. Study the Harvard Business Review, Professor Christensen, and you will see what are the elements of disruptive. To be disruptive, something should be something that's starting in a small niche, targeting an undetected niche from a big player. So the big player didn't want to merge or make the acquisition at the first. Scale fast, grow big, and then the big player before disappear because they didn't catch the threat on time. For example, Netflix. Why Netflix? It is a disrupting innovation because Blockbuster disappeared. They went to Blockbuster. Do you want to make an occasion? No, the people will always like the CD-ROM. Okay, good luck. Now they went bankrupt in 2 years. That's the idea. But you know, if you need to study this, you need to study the root source. Every time I say you want to study things, find the document, the PDF. You know how to find the document of the idea? Now you can even ask GPT, because you can go back, you can study in that case, but I will not study asking directly the answer. I said, okay, give me the grounding literature of this topic from the root cause and give me the link to download it. Then it gives you the 10 documents you download. You click on the link, you download the document. You see that eventually is 50 years old. You feed again the document, the system with that grounding document, and then you see now we can study what is that topic. Because I asked the system to focus and polarizing things and funneling everything into the right direction. But I had to, to use the steering wheel towards the right direction first. Otherwise, it will go in a random path. Okay? So that's different. When I'm doing now research for academic purposes, I always do that. Okay, give me the best document from the best journals and give me the link that I can download for the literature. Okay, I download them all. Then I say, okay, now write the literature review. Okay, I will not ask, write the literature review and eventually will fake the references. It cannot fake the references because I found them, I checked them all. And you cannot tell me, oh, you are cheating. No, I found the references. Okay? I read at least the abstract. Okay? So I'm not joking. Okay? That's the idea. Then, reading, scans documents, and understand. As I said, you want to save tokens, turn it into a TXT file instead of PDF if you don't have enough tokens. Classifying, of course, this is amazing. It's making, as I said, financial statement from the trial balance. Making the aggregates of the financial statements perfect because it's recognized, but still, I want to check if the names are consistent because it might be an interpretation. It might be in a different industry. Forecast weather, traffic, or sales, so it can be integrated with the live systems. I use massively, for example, Power BI for visualization, integrating with the research, and I ask even GPT to teach me how to use Power BI. That's why education, systems, knowledge, now, it's all free if you want. If you want. But of course, we need accelerators even there. So you need mentors. You need someone that says, okay, instead of going from A to Z, I will bridge you already to, let's say, X, Y. Okay, so you just need the final part, and I will let you skip all the things. Because the first time I was learning Power BI, I had no clue. I had to do it for the next week. I had to talk about Power BI in the next week. I didn't know from where to start. I started watching videos in YouTube. But the videos that were showing, oh, you need to click the button. And then I had the free version at the time of the software. I said, but there's not this button. And then searching. I spent 1 day to understand why the button was not there. Because I was using the free version. Okay? And then now I said, okay, there are 2 versions, the free version desktop and the service version in the cloud. So if you want the maximum, you have this, and you're in 2 minutes, you know. But to me, it took me 1 day. That's the idea. And, that's the idea of thinking. Then, summarizing and generating. For example, summarizing is great. Notebook LM from Google. You upload document there. You have a podcast, a video, a slide. But even there, do you have the full version or Google AI Ultra? Which version do you have? Do you have Google AI Ultra? Because if you have Google AI Ultra, will give you the option of cinematic animation. If not, you have the explainer. You will see what's the difference. Check explainer and cinematic in Google AI Ultra, completely different. If you subscribe later to my YouTube channel, you will see that all my videos are cinematic, and they are not the ones that are generated randomly by the normal version. It has a cost. It's nothing. If you want advanced things faster, you need to pay. I could have created anyway, because I could have created the animation with other tools, but it could have taken me, instead of 30 minutes, it could have taken me 1 day again. So sometimes you need to balance. Sometimes you need elevators, lift, that bridge you instead of making the stairs. It depends on how fast you need to do the things. Since I'm doing 10 things per day, I cannot afford doing other things. So that's why I'm paying the software. But I could have done exactly the same thing for free, using the Chinese AI for the basic search, downloading the documents that are still online, doing a combination of other tools, you can always do it for free. I once was doing a volunteering session for some kids that were in a camp. They were like in exile from their country. So they were poor guys from Syria. They were stranded in Jordan with an NGO. And they always said, oh, you know, we don't have resources. And do you have a computer? Yes. Do you have internet? Yes. You cannot say you don't have resources. You can study everything. You want to study for free from MIT or Harvard? You want to study from MIT or Harvard? There is the platform, edx.org. You can watch all the videos for free. Only if you need the certificate, you pay. Did you know that? Okay. How many of you didn't know this? So you want to study, you have the knowledge for free everywhere. It's just a matter of being stubborn enough and being technically aware that something can be found and convinced that can be found. That's why sometimes even with my daughter, I fight because, oh, I cannot understand this. I said, okay, you have the word. Imagine she has in her laptop installed GPT, the business version, Gemini AI, the best version, and she always said, oh, why my AI is better than the other? The other they're not paying. Okay. So, oh, the others get a crap result. I got a great result. Okay, good luck. And I say, now you have these tools. How can you say you cannot get the support? You need me all the time. Try to ask 10 times. Sooner or later, one of the 10 times, you will have a good answer that you can understand. But you need to keep your brain and mindset open. Because if you are, you have this preconception, oh, it's too difficult, it's too late, or other things, or I always have done it in this way, it's already very efficient. It's effective, it's not efficient. Effective means that you can do the thing. Efficient, you can do the thing in a fraction of the time or with less resources. Then, I don't want to, okay, so AI is not human intelligence. Now, we summarize this in this sentence. It's not human intelligence. The humans train the AI. Okay, although now, for example, you will receive the slides, no worries. If you text me, I will send them by WhatsApp or whatever. I will share with you the set. You will have at least a PDF instead of a picture. Okay. You know, that's the idea. Okay, so it's not independent judgment. It's orchestrated, it's directed. If it's making mistakes, it means that we need to challenge ourselves, not the system. Oh, you see, it doesn't work. And my answer is, no, you didn't prompt well. That's different. Okay, so it's like when Kiyosaki is saying, okay, so I cannot afford, or the question should be, how can I afford? It's the same mindset difference. Okay? Then, AI is not always correct, of course. It depends on which document. Eventually, that book was old. Let's imagine another case. I don't know if you have lawyers here. Do you have any lawyers? Okay, because in law, there is a challenge. The new law overrides the previous one in some parts or entirely. Imagine these documents, that these models that were trained with news and the old laws and comments and lawyers' opinions and judges' opinions on one law, and today starts the new law. It's more likely that if you ask a question on that topic, we'll choose the new law or the old ones. The old ones is probabilistic. Okay? Unless you upload the new law and say, okay, based on this law, make me a comment. But you should be aware that the law new is there. Then, AI is not a replacement for responsibility. Again, you cannot say, oh, the mistake was done by AI. Again, is you prompted badly. You didn't upload the right documents to let the answer be correct. You didn't double check. One thing is responsibility, another thing is accountability. The model is responsible because it's following tasks that you prompted, but you are still accountable. Accountable means that you delegated the task, but still you have the obligation of oversight. That's the difference. Let me go ahead. I don't know, it's not moving. Okay. Let me see. I was going too fast. Okay. How AI learns from data. We already anticipated this topic. We said how many books there are here, or how many books there are in a different smaller library. The knowledge is completely different. How many years you studied, how many topics you studied, and how in-depth you study. There is also a learning curve, which is very strange in this sense. So I always say, you know, the breakthrough of the most successful businesses, they are always those that they were so resilient to keep studying, even if they were the leaders in the market. Let's imagine you want to start a new topic. I don't know, you want to study how to go to Mars. Okay? You study the first book, your knowledge from 0 to big jump. The second book, still, you are growing and doubling your thing. But the more you read, the more you perceive that the books are always saying the same things. So eventually in any book, the marginal increase of your knowledge is still important. It's still important because you learn even one sentence in one book will be, you know, like expanding your potential connections with other things. So the more you study, the more you say, okay, I read all the books in the field. Still, imagine, I understood the difference between a topic in finance, that is the difference in depth, because everyone can understand, can read the definitions between leverage and unlevered flows in finance. I was studying books, manuals, I asked the professors, I asked everything. Still, I didn't have clear, even after my PhD. Then once I took an addendum of Financial Times, Finance for Dummies. I read that one, I said, it was so clear. Now I connected the dots. It was so simple. And you know, you can never know from where you will have inspiration and clarity of things. Sometimes the simplest things are more clear than the technical one. And they will give you the breakthrough. That gave me the breakthrough to explain many other things and create new theories. Imagine, from an addendum for dummies. I said I was dummy myself. Okay? Imagine. Find the patterns. Again, patterns now, they are not even limited to your field. So in my career, I started with, and I always try to be a professional before studying. I always a practitioner first and then degrees. It's the other way around. So I started being an accountant and auditor for 3-4 years. Then I took the PhD in accounting finance. Then I started being a professional witness in court. I got the LLM, the Master in Law. Then I started using GPT and all these things. Now I'm getting the second PhD in AI. That's different. I trained my colleagues in the Department of Computer Science on anti-gravity. They didn't know it was existing. Because this means that I was searching in TikTok, not because from the books. It doesn't mean that the colleagues are dumb. No, they are extremely skilled. I'm learning from them massive knowledge. I need them because they need to do the things practically. But when it comes to bridging different knowledges, I want to be at the edge. And this is another matter. It's ambition, is expectations, is curiosity, is willingness to learn, openness to learn. Not saying this is too difficult or this is too easy. No, I want to keep the things in depth. I keep searching in TikTok. When I scroll my TikTok, it's not showing me the dancing or the other thing. It's showing me people and nerds that are specialized in AI and other things. If you open the ones of my daughter, all dancing and other things, of course, because it's bridging to, you know, the more you had a good direction, the more it will enhance your knowledge. So the tools itself is not bad or good. It depends on how you use it. You can have a knife, you can kill a person, or you can cut a steak with a knife, you know. That's the idea. Get the best from all the tools you have. Try to check every single button. Why this button appear today here? Let me open it. No, I'm using always the same ones. This is not. I was having a conversation with a colleague in the campus in the UK. She wanted to create an AI conversation interview for a potential CEO for a degree, for the MBA, and she couldn't know how to prompt it in AI. I said, oh, no, but in this case, we need to create the custom GPT. I said, what is a custom GPT? I say, you need to create the one that you trained with the script, and then it will follow always that script because you create a kind of specified limit. And then I said, oh, but this is existing. I say, yes, you were paying the subscription? Yes. Imagine, this is existing since 3 years ago. You never tried. I couldn't even imagine it was existing. I say, every time, I like exploring the menus. I say, is there any new button today? This is curiosity. It's not being smart or dumb. It's curiosity, okay? And lack of fear of the tools, because in the worst case scenario, it will not work. You will not delete data anyway. I hope you will not upload data, confidential data in AI, okay? Sometimes I do because I want the AI to remember things to be, but at my own risk. But in the version that I have, it's disclosing your data will not be used to train the model. I know they are using it, but if I discover, it's their problem. They will pay me back. At least I have this, okay? Then, learns from examples, spam, recommendation examples, page. If I have to find something now, I want to find a spare part of a car that I cannot find, and it takes ages to find in the shops, and because it's an old model of car. I search in the agent. I open the function agent. It was opening a remote desktop GPT, making the search. It gave me the links of all the suppliers that had the spare part in the UAE, by the way. And then I compare the prices. I called them all, and I got the spare part. These are things that can be done. You just need to be creative. You need to think that these things can be done. Make prediction, new messages. You may also like the recommendation and so forth. This is used already by all the software that you are using. I don't know, from Talabat to Amazon or whatever. So they're always saying, okay, this is next. This is used by YouTube as well. What is the next video that you might like? But this is machine learning, not even AI, okay, which is a subset of AI. Then, types of AI you already use. Search engine, they are algorithm. When we talk about algorithm, what do you think if I tell you algorithm? It's a formula with numbers, right? Formula with numbers, just to make it very simple. An algorithm is a formula with numbers. So you might say, okay, but how formula with numbers when we talk about text? Because they're tokenized. Number calculations, association of numbers next to each other from the right source that you can choose, the right book that it picked up. The more you are contextualized, the more you use technical words, the more you are absolutely almost certain that the system, if it includes a document pre-trained, will use that one, because the others will not have this association of words. You filter and you funnel the research towards those documents. Translation tools, real-time text and speech conversion. I'm telling you, we were making the test for the translation of my patent. I filed a patent here for an accounting system. We were making the translation 2 days ago. 1 month ago, I tried the translation in Arabic. It was terrible. I tried it even on the same day alone. It was terrible again. Then I changed the prompt. I said, be careful. This is technical terminology from this topic, from the topic of blockchain, from the topic of accounting. Use the right terminology only for the translation of this technical document. The translation, I have the witness, it was done perfectly. Okay? In this case, it means that we are not using it properly. I was challenging myself. I say, what if this document is not translated because it's trying to get the first translation suitable with a synonym? Because in accounting, even cost and expense is not a synonym. For everyone, if I said, do you think is cost and expense is a synonym? 99% of the people will say yes, but expense is a subset of a cost. Another cost is an asset. Asset is a cost. You say, no, asset is not a cost, it's an asset. No, you have to pay for it, so it's a cost. Okay? The only difference is that it will last more. It will be consumed in more years, but still is a cost. You have to pay. You have a cash outflow. So asset is a cost. You learn something else. Because this series was designed for bridging artificial intelligence and financial literacy. So that's why I'm sometimes recalling these topics. Banking fraud alerts. This was happening again, but how they can recognize the alerts, the other thing. Geolocalization. I had my card hacked in the UK in 2021 during COVID. I received a call after 1 minute. I said, oh, did you make the purchase in Coventry and in London after 5 minutes? It was impossible. That's why they recognized. Again, it's not AI. This is leverage of real-time data with the system calculating and integrating, right? Then, streaming recommendation, phone cameras, virtual assistant. Now, I don't know if you have an Android phone. I received the update 2 days ago, 3 days ago for the Android with AI, other things. I still need to test them. I feel overwhelmed. I would like to test everything. I don't have time. But I try to use it, and every time I have the opportunity, I test it. Okay? I test the opportunity. I say, okay, there's this button. Let me see what it is. Just try to be curious and not be afraid of what it can happen. In the worst case scenario, it will give you something useless, or it will not delete your data in most of the cases. Okay? Virtual assistant. Then generative AI. So because when we think about AI now, we think about automatically about generative AI, GPT, Anthropic, or Google. Creates new output. New output, but new in which sense? New means not something that is creating a new book from out of thin air on a new topic. It's not possible. You need to orient. But novelty is, for example, bridging two topics together that no one thought about before. What is the novelty in the new companies? They are trying to do it originally. Eventually, they get the idea from medicine applied in computer science. That is the opportunity for novelty now. There is not like I create a completely new topic. That one is only the human brain can generate. Okay, so it's an idea, it's an intuition. It's like keeping the eyes open, being curious, humble. Summarizes, email reports, code, slides code. As I say, this is the amazing. I don't waste time. To me, creating a slide deck doesn't take more than 15 minutes, even detailed. My workflow, I asked GPT, okay, so this is the document, the source document. Create a table. Look at the prompt that I'm saying. Create a table based on this document as a main reference, not only, but main reference, because every single word counts, okay? And in the table, you put the title of the slide and the description of what should be in the slide. I'm not asking to create the slides. And then it returns a table. Then I go and open Grok, which is amazing for visuals. And I say, I copy paste every line one by one. I say title plus description. I open Grok, image. And I say, I select, of course, the you know, the sides, usually 16/9, because I need the slides. And then I said, infographic, very few words for this. And then I paste the topic. Why? Because I tested before. If you don't write very few words, it will start writing a lot of text, and the text will all be blurred. But it creates this. This is how I created this slide. I wanted these slides to be aligned with my latest publications on AI to get for a specific audience or other things. Now, sometimes the students came to me and said, this is my output from my assignment. And I reply, I'm sure you prompted in this way. I say, how did you know the prompt? I do not even check it. I said, you prompted in this way. I do not say you cheated. I say, you prompted this prompt. I said, it's very close. That one of them open GPT. I say, I prompted exactly what you said. Because I already understand from the output how it was prompted. And there are markers to recognize. Now, I don't need to use the AI detector to see if it's AI or not, because the detector is using natural language processing to understand these things. So you want to know the keywords that I'm using to avoid being detected: perplexity, burstiness, entropy. These are the 3 words. So the machines are checking, for example, if the words are always counted in numbers, always in the same sequence, if the paragraphs always on the same sides, if there are certain keywords that are used recurringly. I noticed, for example, that the main mistakes is done by GPT or any others is always using the word therefore without the commas before and after. It's always, and I click there, replace every time there is the word discipline with structured. I click and all the keywords are replaced, and with the same prompt, because I could have used the word, the function replace. You might say, okay, why not replace? No, because I need to change always the same words. Therefore, it should be replaced also with a comma before and after, or delve should not be there, and highlight in yellow all these keywords. With one click, I check them all, and I revise my text. One click and one prompt, because first is the prompt, is the root. Large language models. Why large? Here, the knowledge, the documents were used, especially if they were copyrighted, even better. They are more accurate. I'm not blaming anyone. Okay, now it's official. Okay. Anyway, then input. Learns patterns and probabilities. But again, you cannot expect, oh, why the system didn't follow 1 + 1 = 2 and 2 + 3 = 5. It does not calculate. Once I was laughing of the model. I taught the model how to miscalculate. I said, okay, I wanted to make a test. I said, okay, there is the new principle in mathematics. I said, oh, which principles? The answer. I say, every time you calculate the sum, you need to want 1 unit. So 1 + 1 = 3. 2 + 2 = 5. I said, are you sure? I said, yes, this is the new math of 2026. Okay, perfect. Then I made some tests. I was making the sums, and they were all wrong because it was adding 1 unit more. The system is a machine. It's learning based on the probability, based on the thing. Understood? So imagine a hacker that wants to do this. It can inject a code in a system to let this do random things that are completely wrong, or eventually forward the data to someone else that it was not supposed to be receiving the data. Okay? Prediction. The meeting is at 3 p.m. in the conference room. Why? Because you are usually setting the meeting at that time. Not because you prompted that it should be at that time. So it might be good, it might be bad. You just need to double check. You need to ask for confirmation to the other counterpart if the meeting is there at that time. Prompting basics. So clear instruction. Clear instruction, not always. Be mindful. The role in my ecosystem that I pre-trained before is not needed. The system knows who I am. If I ask, who am I? You are Dr. Alessio, teaching at the university. You want this answer usually structured. You don't want AI slope in the text. Your answers are extremely careful. You know, it understood my style. It will not start writing things. You don't want list. It's unbelievable. It knows exactly what it knows. Then there is this controversy. It's a male or a female. Okay, I say it. It's a machine. It's like the chair. Okay? It is. It's a machine. Then, task, redesign the checkout. I always say, return me the output in a table. Why? Because I'm very visual. I want to see the thing structured, not in bullet points. Return me in a table. I want to study as a table. Right? Then, context. Context might not be exactly that you need to describe that you are talking about, I don't know, an audience in the library from Dubai and so forth. Keywords. Training or event, library, National Library, Dubai. You don't have to write, okay, so I'm going to prepare an event for the people in the library. You are wasting tokens. The more you associate keywords next to each other, the more you increase the likelihood that the system will pick up the right books from its own library. So do not ask please or other things. So this is, don't be shy, okay? Don't be polite. It's a machine. Then format, output as 4-column table. As I said, the output is important. You want to know. I want a narrative. I want schematic. I want visual. I want a picture. I want an infographic. The ones that you already expect. Audience, as I say, the tone. In this case, I told you, in my GPT, I don't have to do it because it knows already. It knows that I need something professional all the time. Skeptical. I need official sources with a link for each source that I need to be able to click and verify if it exists or not. I don't even have to ask anymore. But how many of you are asking to send the references with a link? Because I say, you cannot ask, oh, provide only genuine references. And then eventually it gives you the reference, but it misses the year. It's not entirely perfect. So I say, give me the source that I want to download and verify. So I don't have to go in Google and search that reference if it exists. I click directly there, and the time is saved. Efficiency. I could have done it in 3 steps instead of 1. Constraint, no jargon. I have my prompt. I say, use these lexical and grammatic rules. Do not use the long dashes. Avoid using discipline or other things. Okay? Use a very high level of perplexity, burstiness, and text entropy. Use a very low temperature. What is the temperature? It's hot. It's cold. It's cold here. It should be cold. Why? Because the temperature is giving the model, you might not know, is giving the model an idea if it has to use a lot of synonyms to avoid being detected or to be creative. So if you are making an audit report, the temperature should be 0. You need to use cost or expense or asset when it's needed. You cannot use cost in this sentence and then expense in the next to ensure variability of text. But how many of you knew the temperature? There is in the parameters of configuration. You might not report temperature very low. And I inject that code before starting prompting. Where I learned it? TikTok. And then I invented the Chrome extension because I wanted to be fast. That's the idea. Okay? I'm not doing crazy things. I'm just following a pattern, micro-learning. Every day you learn a little bit more. And no one can follow you if they stop one day. If they stop at the first coffee shop, you know, they will lost you. Okay? They will you will have them lost. Then, examples and so forth. AI for daily productivity. Productivity can be done for everything you can imagine, even things that you cannot still imagine. And I'm not joking, I'm not exaggerating, trust me. I cannot wait in the evening to go home and then check which kind of new passive income I can generate with free software. I'm getting addicted. I'm checking every day now the 3-4 websites where I'm earning passive incomes that 3 months ago I didn't even know existing. Then, drafting emails, summarizing long documents, planning meetings, preparing checklists, creating tables, translating text. Secretaries, gone. But not gone forever. They are gone if they don't know how to use the tools. Because if they know how to use the tools, they will be, let's say, employed to do other things. Let's say public relations, human touch in the things, revision of the content. But they will not say, I will give you this report in 3 days. You need to give me in 1 hour. You generate, you revise it, and in 1 hour you give me that. What I will do in the other 3 hours? No worries. I will let you study the new tools so you will increase your productivity. That's the way, not fighting. Let's say, let me find another way to use your brain. Because you have one. Okay? But these are the basic ones. When you read this slide, you say these are basic things. They do not add value. Yes, they add value, saving time. This is the value. We said already, the most scarce resource is the time, is not the money even. Because you can find everything for free. I told you, if you want, you can find for free. Sometimes you might perceive that I'm encouraging you to buy the subscription. No, I'm buying the subscription to see what is the maximum level that I can reach at this stage and where all the others will be in a few months. That's my role, okay? Then, AI for professionals. By the way, I had to prepare the bookkeeping of my wife's company, and I didn't want to buy QuickBooks. I asked Anti-Gravity, create for me the accounting software. 2 hours, it was ready. Do we need? So with one subscription, I can cover all the other subscriptions. But of course, when it was created, I had to make some refinements because it was not understanding the subledgers or other things, you know, technical things that I should have configured. It can be done. Don't tell me I cannot. Ask me how can I, or which tools do you believe they are the best for that task? Because more or less they can all do the things. Some they are more performing than others in some tasks, in not everything. There is not one the best. Otherwise I could have purchased one subscription and alas, it was enough. Okay? I'm buying them all because I want to see in which they are the best. So the same task, sometimes I ask 3 tools at the same time to see which one is faster, which one is more effective, which one is more accurate, which one is the best individuals. I like testing, I'm curious. Then, for work, policy summaries. So imagine if I'm asking the government here if they want to revise if some policies or laws are inconsistent. You should ask and you should meet all the experts in every field in a room and discuss each other. They don't know from where to start. I once did it. I uploaded all the laws of the UAE and I found some inconsistent in some. I sent a report and it was done in 30 minutes. And then, of course, they had to verify. Policies, training materials, data explanation, risk register, project planning, customer support, reporting, and so forth and so forth. When I want to create an image, I constrain it in a JSON code in which I say what is the perspective, what is the style, what is the ratio, what is the color, what is the type, if it's a photography or if it's a, I don't know, a comics or whatever. And then I prompt the description, and the picture comes in the right size, is the right pixels, and so forth. Just one prompt, because I created before my ecosystem and my tools. I created in 10 minutes a Chrome extension that generates QR codes. And I became a developer for Google by subscription. It costs $10 forever. And now I'm publishing Chrome extension in Google. I just want to say, why Chrome extension? You might ask, oh, why a Chrome extension and not a software? Because the Chrome extension can be used by everyone in any browser, of course, Chrome, by anyone without installing the software in the computer. So even if you are using a computer from your company, you can still add as a Chrome extension. So it's very flexible. But I didn't know even that it was possible. So the first time I asked GPT, I had to create this. It should be very fast. How can I do? Okay, try a Chrome extension. And I did it. Since then, I created more than 20 Chrome extensions for productivity, including this one. I click there, I copy paste my number or the website that I want the audience to visit. It creates the QR code, and everyone instantly is scanning the QR code without opening another page or another software. Click, copy paste, and show. The research, AI supports learning, revision, idea, not replacing, support. Be careful of the words. Study plans, generation of the question. You want to prepare an exam with a question bank. Upload in the custom GPT the manual of that exam. Someone wants to study CFA, right? You want to study CFA. And who wants to study CFA? Download the manual in PDF, even an older one. Upload as a knowledge base that manual of CFA. And ask the system to ask you random question on CFA. You test yourself without paying anything, except the manual, unless you can find for free. Sometimes if you want a manual, just ask in Google, name of the manual, space, doc type, column, PDF. And you will see that most of the cases you will find that document for free. Not cheating, not hacking. It's available for free. Someone by mistake, they published it. And you are just using it. Then, garbage in, garbage out. Be careful of what you prompt. Then, I don't know if it's going on or not. Sometimes it's not working. Anyway, so we can just, this is not working at the moment. Maybe too much? Okay. This is not AI, no worries. I need to click here? No. Do you have any questions in the meantime? Lots of questions. Yes. Okay. So we'll go ahead. I want to conclude because we are running out of time, and this one were widely understood. Okay, so if you want to stay in touch, in the first QR code that I created with my Chrome extension, you can find my email, my WhatsApp, my LinkedIn connection, and so forth. So you can have everything there, and my books, of course. And the Chrome extension at the bottom of the page. On the right side, there is the YouTube channel, free subscription. I already hit almost 1.6 million views in 6 months. Yes. Okay? But putting valid content, of course. It's called Google AI Studio, AI Finance Studio. Then, for those who arrive later, I also want to share with you again the registration code so you can receive the certificate of attendance. I need to go at the very beginning. I need to go at the beginning. 1 second. Yes, we already did financial courses before. This was the last session. Okay, this is the registration. Sorry? So the finance, it was done because we delivered one of these courses every month on a Saturday, 1 month, 1 Saturday per month. And this was supposed to be the last one. Okay? So we started, unfortunately, during the crisis, so the first was online. And then we started here. Okay, so for those who haven't done it before, you can do the registration. I will receive your email and everything. And I will send you the soft copy of the certificate. If you want or you need the hard copy, just feel free to email me. We can meet, we can have a coffee, and we can, I will share the hard copy. Okay? Any questions? I hope you enjoyed, first of all. I hope just thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Really, a lot to take away. A lot to take away.
Thank you.
I'm really blowing my mind.
Yes. Yes.
Very good for new generation. But are we giving them a way to escape logical reasoning? Are we giving away the way that we used to study when we were young, that used to your logic, you learn, you make a mistake, you try again, and you have everything done on artificial intelligence, and little by little, your mind doesn't even inquire. Your mind, similar to mine, inquiries. Yeah. Even if it's done, you check with another artificial intelligence. You check yourself with your experience. But young minds, how do they manage this maybe in 10, 15 years? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. This is something that I'm thinking about every day, okay, to be honest. And I'm telling you, I can bring you an anecdote of our daughter. She was given a problem in mathematics, and all the schools said, all the grade 6 of her school said, it's impossible. There is a mistake. And then she told me, oh, the teacher is laughing because we are all saying it's impossible. Because, of course, every one of them, they tried with GPT, and it was not working for that exercise. That's okay. If the teacher is laughing, it means that there is a way. So let's see it. We sat 15 minutes. We solved it. She went to school, and she was the only one having solved, because the other five, they trusted GPT. They said, no, it cannot be solved. Still, my daughter has the same problems as everyone else. So it closes the mind that says, this cannot be done, this is too difficult for me, and other things. So I will encourage you eventually to attend the next session with Jocelyn. That will be amazing on the teenagers for this one. But anyway, so this is not my role. But I can tell you, you cannot avoid these kids to avoid using it, because it's like saying the computer is invented, keep using the calculator. You know, I did the bookkeeping because I wanted to keep myself trained from A to Z of a company with only Excel, without the software at the end, because I took the challenge. Imagine, 1,000 transactions, ledger, journal, and trial balance, all balanced for 1 year accounting in 1 day, if I want. But I say, this is just because I want to keep myself trained, but it's not needed. With the software, I could have done it in 1 hour. It's fine. I didn't want to learn the software. I said, okay, I can do it. Let me enjoy, because I wanted to slow. And there is a great book, which is Slow Thinking, Fast Thinking, from Kahneman, if I'm not wrong. He won the Nobel Prize for this, Slow Thinking, Fast Thinking. Anyway, the tools should be learned, and they should be learned in the latest model, like I'm telling my daughter, because otherwise they will keep using like I don't know, the Cinquecento instead of the Ferrari. Okay, I'm talking in because we are both Italian, so I'm referring to car models that we can recall. Okay, but that's the idea. So, but when using, they need support because otherwise they will use it for the wrong purpose. As I say, TikTok. If you scroll and see that they are watching dancing and reels and other things, they are wasting time. Now I gave my daughter the GMAT. She is in grade 6. And she said, it's too difficult. They told me it's too difficult. I said, this is the problem. If the others are telling you it's too difficult, you close the thing and they say it's not for my grade. Oh, this is a university level. I know GMAT is for university level after the master. But now she's solving the exercises. She's struggling, but she's solving the exercises. Then she's surprised they can do it in 10 seconds. She takes her one afternoon. I don't care. Okay, I took the opportunity that she got 3 in maths. And I say, now, unless you study this, she will not. That's the idea. But we need to challenge them and we need to say, okay, with the tool, even with the tool, you cannot do it. How many exams? The teachers, they give the form with all the formulae. The students, they don't have time to study the formula during the exam. They need to know them before. They don't realize, oh, it's easy, that exam. I have the formula sheet. What you will do with the formula sheet if you don't know how to use them? If you use it for the wrong purpose, if you have to study, if someone is asking you a question face to face, you don't know how to answer. How many students, they got their assignment submitted, done by someone else? When I was at the university, everyone was telling me, why you are helping the others? They might be your competitors. I say, no, they're not my competitor because they don't have my passion. They don't like it. And that was true. Okay. Thank you. Great.
I will share 2 things.
Sure.
Maybe he will comment on that things. When I start studying the AI and go in the AI vision or that things, I go to study the human history of thinking, of knowledge. They start writing in stone.
Yes.
And share that stone to other. I don't know how heavy that stone of knowledge. And after it's starting writing in a paper.
Yes.
And teacher, he's sitting down, student down, and he write down what's the future. And why I study that? I study that because I see people resist the AI technology. The future, you will not have any way computer with keyboard. You will not use it. Now you talk to the technology, to the machine learning, and understand what they do. Yesterday, something funny happened to me. I'm sitting with my Apple Vision in immersive world, and my daughter, 7 years old, nearby me, she asked me how I can do presentation. 7 years old, in PowerPoint. And she's curious to know. I'm trying to answer her, but I know in the era of to reach 15 years old, there's no PowerPoint.
No.
But I teach her the key notes in the iPad. She run and come with the 3 slide. But I still imagine in 15 years old with the age, there's no PowerPoint. Because we have Gamma, Croc, and others now. We use it
Canva.
to present Canva to present something. But this is the future. And in my major as architect, we use AutoCAD and other application. Today, designing and thinking in designing a beautiful building like that, it's different in AI. This is the doctor.
I fully agree with you, and I can also add something else. We need to be more skilled than them. We cannot say, oh, we are a dinosaur, they know better. And in my case, they cannot cheat with me. So once she has to apologize, she wrote a letter, and this is my letter for apology. I said, this is AI. Oh, no, it's not true. I said, okay. And she didn't know that I could go in the history of thing, and I say, letter of apology for my father. I say, yes, that's what. But in this case, it's another level. But I can tell you, the thing that you said is amazing, and it's this is probably the reason why I'm studying this thing in this way. Because, for example, I was lucky enough that my father was in cybersecurity and in computing since the 80s. We had the first personal computer in 1986. 1986, a personal computer at home. Okay, and so I was using the floppy and the other things, the things that we mentioned today. You say, okay, you are too old, but I was 4 years old at that time, so I was not that old yet. And then in that case, you know, he brought the first encyclopedia in floppy, and we also had the printer with the needles. The teacher, it was grade 6 or grade 7, I don't remember. She said, oh, can you do a research on Vivaldi, musician? I took the floppy, I printed, I said, oh, do you mind if I wrote it in a computer? The teacher said, oh, amazing, thank you, it's great. I didn't even read it. Okay, but you know, maybe this is a kind of mindset that says the technology is useful, I don't have to be scared. I need to try to see what is the new technology, because if you knew the technology better than the others, you do things that in 2 seconds that the other believe that you can do in 1 month. And you need to tell them, don't be scared. You need to love these things because they are productivity tools. All these tools, they are productivity tools if you use them well. If you use them for going in Roblox or other things, it's a waste of time. Okay, so that's the idea. But I was playing myself in Age of Empire or all the things for other things. It gave me allocation of resources or other things. So you need to be curious, but it's a challenge for us, not for them. Because we need to be at the edge of the tools that make them available. Because if they use the free version of GPT, if they don't know Canva because you need to have the subscription, it's an investment again. So if you don't have these investments, they keep using the second best, and the others will run. Now it's even more challenging, because the less you have resources, unless you are smart enough to find the alternative free version of that one, the more the others will run and you will stay stuck. That's what I think. So I'm not scared about the technology of the things, because they can still have a mindset to use them smartly. But they need to have a mindset, first, not to be scared. 2, we need to give them availability of the best tools, and we need to monitor them, and we need to know more than them to know if they are using it bad or good. And this is our responsibility, and sometimes, unfortunately, we don't have time. I struggle myself, I told you. Seeing my daughter, which is closing the mind, so and resisting. So it's kind of resistance, but resistance is for everyone. I let her and my daughters read Who Moved My Cheese? It's my favorite book. I don't know if you read it at all. Who Moved My Cheese? If you read that one, you will know what I mean. Okay, just need to keep your eyes open, look around. Yes, please. I told you, now it's very popular, Anthropic and Claude, but I'm still using GPT, and now the older version, the newer version is doing the thing. If you want something more integrated with more tools, Google, because you can have the other one. But Google, I told you, you need to buy the advanced version, which is Google AI Ultra, that now costs 750 dirhams per month. I didn't want to use Claude because I know there are some cybersecurity threats that I don't want to risk with my ecosystem. Okay? Yes, because the new model Mythos is it's quite challenging. It's very powerful, and it can delete some files in your record. So I don't want to use it. I want to test it, but in a sandbox in another computer without my Google account and other things. So that's why I want to do it. But still, everyone is saying that they are more or less equivalent, so I'm still using this other one, but I need to do it. Google is doing great, but I told you, if you do advanced research, you need GPT. Okay, so that's, if you need news, updated news, you need Grok, because Grok is linked with X, and you have the tweets from the people from all the updated news live for the news. whenever you turn anything digital, you have no privacy anyway. Okay? That's my answer. So it's an illusion. Oh, I have in my computer, you plug the, imagine now the hackers, they can steal your data even just from the socket of your computer without even if the Wi-Fi is switched off. So what's the purpose? This thing. If you buy the subscription for businesses and enterprises, it comes with a contract that it should be, this data will not be used for training the model. So if you discover that it's leaked in the thing, you can sue them and you can have a payoff. But this is the only thing you can do. That's the only thing. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yes, you want.